Hey, 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 beautiful people. It is 10:30 a.m. on October 1st, 2013. We're getting ready to get clobbered. um, in my last video, which that was my drunken video, and I thank you guys for all your comments and appreciation of letting things be real and getting um, in our ability to see the truth of who we all are. Yeah, I party. And that is not going to stop your light. In fact, I use the partying sometimes to tone down my light so I can deal with it. Otherwise, I'd never sleep or get anything else done. Um, and I have tried every way to tone it down, and nothing works except for me, except for those things that I have found and appreciate so much. So we each have to allow everybody to be on whatever path and doing whatever they're doing for themselves. I mean, what's right for me is not right for you, and what's right for you is not necessarily right for me. So anyway, enough of that. And I appreciate everybody's kind comments, including those people who disapproved of it too. But yeah, that's just a 3D thing, and 3D thing is getting broken up, and that is the subject of today's video. In that last video, I was talking about the uh, great solar filament that got released and flung at us. And it's going to be here tomorrow. And this is the very first one that we've seen erupting in Earth's direction in quite some time. We haven't had any filaments or CMEs or anything other than coronal hole streams that have been Earth directed in a while. And this one was so massive. It literally, the filament, as you look at the sun, it took up a quarter of the sun when it popped off and came our direction. It has got, if you looked at that filament on the, like here's the sun and you're looking at that filament taking up a quarter of the sun, you could fit almost 100 Earths between the two ends of where that filament was when it released. And the thickness of the filament, you can still put a couple of Earths within. And at first it was curious to see if it was going to hit Earth, and now it's looking like, yep, it's going to hit Earth. But then the next thing that we are usually concerned about is the speed of that filament, how quickly it's coming in, because if it comes in super fast, it can disrupt our electrical grid or our satellites or anybody who's in space or persons at the northern and southern poles. It could really affect all of this in a very, very great way. But the speed of this filament is so slow. But what's interesting about it is the density of the solar material that was released within the filament. This is photons. It is designed specifically to amp light up. And I find it really curious, as I've been watching the sun these past months, and we see giant filaments ripping off going in the other quarters off the sun that's facing everything else in our solar system, but not facing Earth. And this has been repetitive for some time now, that when those solar flares or the filaments turn into Earth, that we don't get much released in this direction. But we see some huge ones that would absolutely be what they call kill shots to our Earth's magnetic grid and our satellites that are getting released in other directions. Now, that just leads me to believe, after watching this for so long, that that we've got a divine orchestration to what's going on with these solar flares. And of course we do. We're all here for the Ascension, and we all are much greater than these little egoic cells that we're inhabiting in these bodies in this little bitty lifetime that we've lived since we've been on planet in this particular incarnation. So, we're all here for Ascension, and there are much greater powers that are influencing what's going on with the sun. Just like those giant X flares that we were having in early 2012, man, they really caused some breakup at the quantum levels, like a spiritual rock crusher is what I always call it, to break out our negativity and to really restructure the polarizations where we're shifting from the 3D into the 4D and going into 5 and 6D and much higher. 3D is really truly gone. It's just not here. All those old polarizations were broken up in 2012, and by December 21st, 2012, that ended. Now, persons are waking up into their spirituality, and that's taking them into a fourth dimensional perspective. Third dimension is a total separation. It's all just happening to you, and you have no control over it. And that's 3D. 4D, you realize that you're spiritual. There's something more going on here, and you're not just who you think you are in this little spiritual ego of 4D, having lived just this lifetime. And so 4D is an expansion, a growth in consciousness from 3D. And 5D is a shifting of the consciousness out of the brain and into the heart. And when you do that, you're setting up you're initiating your light body, and you're beginning the process of ascension and the process of expansion into who we really are, which is energy, which is spirit, which is higher dimensional vibrations that are eternal, that from 4D to 5D, what you're doing is, rather than having that realization in 5D, you're bringing it more fully into the body. And in allowing it to live through the body. You're living through your eternal spiritual self more than the ego self, the little short years. For me, 51 years in this lifetime. You don't bring ego in from past lives, although persons in their spiritual ego can get hung up on who they were, what they saw in past lives. And a lot of times we got to just go through that process, and that's part of what the spiritual rock crusher does, is pulverize all that previous thoughts of being so special in other previous lifetimes, and just brings you to the real deal in this lifetime. Now that's what these CMEs and these magnetics coming in from the galactic center, and what all of this is all about. The spiritual rock crusher that is literally pounding us up down to the quantum level, but the emotions that are located between the atoms and within the cells of the physical being. And what it's doing, these CMEs and the magnetics and all of this higher cosmic rays, including the coronal hole streams, what they're doing is they're coming in, is they're literally just breaking up the old magnetics, those emotions that we held within the physical being, so that they can be released and we can be rewired to higher dimensional states of consciousness. I'm glad I don't have to think about this stuff and it just flows. I mean, it'd blow my mind if I was still in my intellect trying to figure out what I'm going to say. in 4D, I couldn't cope with it. 5D, you just let it come up. You've got a field that's around you, and you've got a message coming in, and it's just a flow to come back out. And a lot of times we have to get over our fear of not being in the head, thinking about all the little details of what we say and how we're going to look and how other people are going to react to us when they hear the message. That's 5D. And so, anyway, this filament incoming is so massive, it is just absolutely magnificent. Now, NASA's changing some of the graphs on how much of it's going to hit us, and that's in a state of flow. But it looks like we're going to have a pretty massive wave of photons streaming in, which will allow us more releasing of those emotions and the magnetics that we hold within our being. And for those of us who have been releasing these emotions and magnetics for so long and are really expanding our light body, this also comes in, and as the filament or the CME comes into our physical being, depending on how much of our negativity and our old thought patterning and our old wiring to that 3 and 4D, that all has a dependency on how much light we can hold within our physical body. And the more light we hold within our physical body, the more we can expand our consciousness. The more of our higher self and our higher being, which is all that is, can be held within the physical body. And so, anyway, and this subject gets really deep and really complicated. Because you got to get over that separation mentality where you think that what is in the body is all that is you, because truly you are all that is, everything on the exterior of it. And it's that energy which we are now reintroducing ourselves to and living from, in a new state of being we're living as. And that's what New Earth is all about. Now, what's going to happen in these next few days? They say it's about a 10% chance that this filament, because of the speed it's incoming at, about 10% chance it'll damage any of our satellites or our electrical grid. Now, we all know that they've got all types of FEMA warnings and trainings and sessions about having the electrical grid go down. That could be another false flag or one of those events, and I just don't really care about the light that I can hold within my physical being, and not necessarily what's going on with the collapsing of the 3D reality. But we've got that going on, all these different FEMA drills for the collapse of the grid, and then we've also got the shutdown of the government going on. Now, what this CME is going to do, more than anything I see off the bat, is those of us that have been going through our clearing process, we're going to be expanding our fields to whatever level that we have been doing our clearing and holding more light within the physical being. We're going to continue expanding our fields. Now, the persons who haven't been doing the clearing, who have been still focused in that 3D illusion that's gone, and now it's 4D, but even 4D is going to go away too. Because everybody's soon to step into their hearts and become awake and aware of who they truly are, which is 5D. Now, persons still in that 3D and 4D mode, that duality, the separation, the being in the brain, we're going to see some of these guys really going kind of cuckoo crazy. these next few days and weeks. And this happens every single time we have massive eruptions like this. And a lot of times, persons that are in a weakened state and that are fearful, this is when they drop body when these things hit. Number one, because the energetics that's coming up, and these persons are not aware consciously of what's going on, and are aware of their spiritual nature and able to use these CME and filament eruption events to their benefit. And a lot of times this is when the energy comes in, gets so strong, and these persons who are still in their head and their fear, they end up having heart attacks because they think the terrorists are going to come get them or something like that, and they drop body. And we see this occurring over and over and over. And then there are persons that are ready just to move on, that aren't in fear in any way, but are going to go through their ascension process on the other side of the veil. And this is usually a good time for them to pass on too. And that's something that we've seen repetitively over these past couple of years, since the major X flare started erupting at the end of 2011 and first of 2012. And we've seen this come in waves. We're all on different levels right now. I mean, there's so many persons that have been going through their clearing process and their ascension process for many years now. And then there's other waves that are just newly awakened, that are still thinking we're in 3D, but really in a 4D brain set. And they just hadn't got the memo yet, but they are waking up. There is a huge wave of persons waking up across planet right now. And thank goodness. I mean, man, this has really seemed to have taken a lot of time in all these years from being human and being in that separation brain set. I can say, as Bill Ballard, this seems to have taken a lot of time since the mid-1980s, when this process really started unfolding good, until now. And so I'm happy we're at this stage of the game, and we're finally really having that shift come down. Hey, love bug. We got love bugs everywhere around here right now. How lovely. So what is going to happen with the government in that end? I have no idea. And really, I just don't care. I know it. For those of us in 5D, these things do not affect us. And that's all because of the field that we emanate, which generates our life experience. That's what all this is about, becoming a conscious co-creator of your manifestation. Co-creator. Why do I say co-creator? Because you're working with your higher self. Your higher self needs you to have certain experiences. And we also have certain soul contracts and all that we've come to planet to do. The more you embody your higher self, the more that you're consciously creating within the physical being, because you're working the higher self through the body. And when we do that, we're more in touch and aware of our creation and our ability to create that which we wish to manifest. Now, I grant you that if it involves other persons within humanity, you have to deal with the energies of their thought and emotion too. You cannot, you can't control others in that way from 5D. And 4D people still do. 3D they definitely do. But 5D, you have to allow persons and their choices and their magnetics to flow, so that they can have their experience and learn their lessons and go through their ascension process. That's what it's all about. So 5D is a total lack of controlling others and letting it all be at peace, but knowing within our fields, those of us who do hold 5D and higher energies, we just don't have all the stuff. We got the magic. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, that last video just kind of flowed out. That was, I wasn't sure how people would take that, and that was really interesting. There were a lot of persons saying, I hope you don't have a bad hangover. That's one thing about holding higher vibrations, that higher vibration is light, photons. And the photons neutralize hangovers. Yeah, I might feel a little bit acidic after I've partied that hard, but I went on a 40-mile bike ride and got through it just fine yesterday. I woke up still with a little bit in my system and having a good time, big smile on my face, and that was the first time I rode a bike since it got so damn hot here in Florida at the beginning of the summer. And maybe I'll start getting on my long distance bike rides again. It's certainly time. Well, anyway, this is going to be quite interesting tomorrow to see Alexander, to see what goes down. So and there's a planetary alignment going on right now that is really gonna force some issues for persons who are still going through their clearing process, that are still on the fence, so to say. Is there really ascension or not ascension? Can this be real? Well, the astrological alignments that we're dealing with currently at this time when this filament is coming in, that's a pretty amazing synchronicity here, and I would imagine it's going to be really getting those persons on the fence to decide which way they're going, whether they're going to try to hang on to those old ways and experience the drama and the chaos and the fear and the collapse of the system, or are they going to shift more into their heart, out of their head, and into a 5D reality. And so anyway, we'll just have to see what it all brings. 2222, as I say that. Love you all. Bye for now.